All right, folks, what's going on? We are now in the capital of Latvia, Riga, one of Europe's #1 party cities. And as always, I picked the perfect day for it. It's about 45 degrees. It's a little rainy, it's cloudy, and it's not supposed to get better today. So what else could you really hope for in a vacation than being cold and wet? In any case, we are now headed to the Central Market, which is housed in former Zeppelin hangars. That is right. They used to fly Zeppelins here. They're big blimps, though the humanity ones. But in the Central Market, they have lots of breakfast options and lunch options as well, but I have not eaten yet, so I'll be going with breakfast. After that, we'll probably head into the Old Town. You can see one of the churches up there. I believe it's St. Peter, St. Paul, something like that. So yeah, I'll certainly find out more today. So join me as we explore Riga, Latvia. Riga is defined predominantly by two water features. The first is, of course, the Baltic Sea, from which the Baltic states get their name. And the second is this, the Daugava River. And as we cross it, you can already start to see the churches of Old Town. Some spires and what have you. And over there, it's the Central Market. Right across the bridge as you head into Old Town, there's a monument to the Latvian riflemen who served from 1915 to 1920. Now, you'd have to presume that's in a war against Russia. So these riflemen are dressed in a somewhat Soviet fashion. But maybe I should associate those kind of coats with Soviet Russia, even though they really belong to this area of the world. And after just a quick bit of walking, here we are, the Central Market, the former Zeppelin hangars. Really makes you realize how big those Zeppelins were. These are not small buildings. Well, in a somewhat confusing start to my morning, I was initially denied entry into the Zeppelin hangars, and then I just went to a different door and I was let in, so go figure. But I hope you enjoyed that quick shot of the inside. What I found out when I was there is that you cannot currently dine in, which makes sense. The COVID situation's a little rougher in Latvia than it was in Estonia or Finland, so you cannot dine in at the open air market. But now I'm gonna go try to find a cafe, get some Wi-Fi, have a little breakfast, and some coffee. The most important thing in the morning. What I will say while I'm just walking around the Old Town here on the way to breakfast is that so far Riga in Latvia is much more of what you think of when you think former socialist republic. Like, at least when compared to Estonia. And I'm not saying that Riga is not nice or anything like that, because it actually is quite nice, but you can tell it's got a little more edge to it than Tallinn did. Which is a good thing. I mean, you travel to see something different. You know, in many ways, Estonia was Finland light, which I also don't mean in an offensive way. I just mean that you got all of what you wanted from Finland at like 3/4 of the price. So it's actually a good thing. But here, it's a whole different feeling. No better way to start your morning than a cappuccino. As I leave the Crumble Cake Cafe, I find myself wedged between two churches. So this one is St. John's, which I had not actually seen on any of the tourism lists. And I can't remember the name of this one, but it's one that is on the tourism list, so I'll definitely have to go check that out. This monument here was a gift from the city of Bremen in Germany, and it's supposed to represent a Brothers Grimm fairy tale, but I don't know which fairy tale that is. Apparently one where a dog stands on a donkey, and a cat stands on a dog, and a rooster stands on a cat. Oh, this church, it's the one where we were just at the back of it, is St. Peter's. Now, I have a pretty strict church power ranking I've developed over the years, and I'd say this is mid to upper tier. Not as ornate as some, but the height makes up for some of it. I like the clock on it. Got nice design, so solid 7 out of 10. For reference, a 10 out of 10 is the Notre Dame de Strasbourg, Strasbourg, France, which is my all-time favorite church, at least that I've seen so far. Church. Some great views of Riga. That's the bridge we walked across this morning. There's the Central Market, Zeppelin hangers. You can see that Riga is not the most spread out city in the world. Pretty compact, very walkable, which I like, you know. Obviously, I might even be able to not buy a transit ticket today, so I consider that a win to save a little coin. St. Peter's is famous as one of the first churches to preach Lutheranism in this part of the world. And this is the tombstone of the preacher who first preached about Lutheranism in Riga. He was a clergyman in this very church. What is the cutoff between church and cathedral? Sort of a non sequitur, I'm just curious. So interestingly, the altar room here was built in 1408 and 1409. and based on the altar room of the St. Marienkirche in Rostock, in Germany, northern Germany. So, how about that? Estonia, you know I still love you, but if we have to compare the House of the Blackheads in Estonia to the House of the Blackheads in Latvia, we have a very, very clear winner, in my opinion. Rather than see the House of the Blackheads in Town Hall today, when it's rainy and not that nice looking out, I've instead decided to go see the Museum of the Occupation, where I'm going to learn about Latvia's history with the Soviets and the Nazis. Should be very uplifting, which is why I wanted to do it on a dreary day and save the nice day for all the nice stuff to see. House of the Blackheads, Town Hall, etc., etc. So the next trick will be finding the museum. I know it's somewhere along the river, so I figure I'll walk until I hit something that looks like it. Well, it's not the museum I was looking for, but there's a museum. And it's open. And it's raining outside, so kind of seems like a no-brainer. They love their ships in the Baltic states. Some Soviet ships. So, somewhat interestingly, even though that was not the Museum of Occupation, it seems like all Latvian history museums are at some level museums of occupation, because Latvia has been basically occupied constantly, with a few exceptions between like 1918 and the beginning of World War II, and then for the fall of the Soviet Union until now. So basically just two 20-year periods, well, I guess more like 30 years now in the second one. But aside from that, they've been part of Russia, they've been part of Germany, or at least a part of the German sort of trading empire, where the Latvian people were oppressed under a German upper class. So yeah, there's still a lot of oppression, even in the museum that was not necessarily focused on oppression. I would like to find the real museum, though. I don't know, I've looked pretty much all up and down the river. Had no luck. Guess we'll keep trying. This armadillo looks like it's trying to escape from this pit. What did they do to you, little guy? As nice as this church is, what I really need right now is some Wi-Fi. So that's something new. Instead of stained glass, it's like faux cracked frosted glass. It's the design of the future. So that building we were just looking at, it's the Riga Cathedral. I'm gonna put that as a 7.5 to an 8 on the church scale. Pretty nice looking one. I guess we have to see the inside though to get the full picture. So construction of this cathedral began in the 13th century. You have to say they did a pretty nice job. So that's one of the more ornate organs I've seen in my life. Then we have holy water, I presume, which I will not touch, so as not to be a douchebag. And then the altar. We're now in the cloister of the Riga Cathedral. Cloister is one of those words I've seen so many times when I travel, and I'm still not 100% sure what one is. Sort of like an outdoor garden, I guess. I don't know. I have to assume that. This one kind of looks like a Strader's, which is a reference no one outside of Columbus will get, but just with all this, it looks like lawn art out for sale. Obviously it's not, but. Don't know what that is. We have some sort of seal. All right, I feel cloistered. It's about 1 o'clock, which I think is a fair enough time to grab lunch. So that is what I will do. And that was Riga Cathedral. Have to say, including the interior, that moves it up almost to a full 8 in my church scale, because that organ was awesome. Now, as I said, I do want to get some lunch. I also need to find some Wi-Fi so I can figure out where the museum is. And I, so far, am not having any luck with that. So, search continues. While searching for the Museum of Occupation, I found the castle, Riga Castle, which is now home to either the president or parliament. I'm actually not sure about that. Or president, whatever, prime minister. So you got some guys out front doing some marching. I'll try to get a closer look at, assuming they don't yell at me. Guess I don't know why there's any reason I wouldn't be allowed to film them marching, but maybe it's top secret Latvian tactics they won't want me seeing. It appears Riga Castle is under construction, but there's a couple parts of it you can still see. So a fairly sad moment in Latvian history represented here. Apparently it's a statue for the children who were deported to Siberia from 1941 to 1949. It stands right in front of the Riga Castle. I mean, I don't know why the Soviets were deporting children to Siberia, but geez. It's a little messed up, I would say. So this right here is the Swedish Gate, which is one of the few remaining parts of Riga's fortifications that were constructed by the Swedish. Now, most of the fortifications were removed under the Russians, who did not want Riga to be a fortified city. Removed that designation and removed most of the walls and all that, but this is a small section of wall that remains in the original part of the city. And it says 1698. So, kind of neat. Just smack dab in the middle of Old Town. Kind of comes out of nowhere. All the way to the top. This, thinking it's where the Freedom Monument was. And turns out it's over there, which if I just turned the corner around this little hill, I would have found out. I mean, yeah, it's a little ridiculous that I'm whining about walking up a couple of steps, but you have to remember, I've been the, like, 30,000 step man for the past 5 days now. So the legs are getting a little tired, and stairs do me no favors. It's a nice fall day though. You can see leaves are coming down. So it follows a pretty similar weather pattern to upper Midwest US. Maybe a little rainier here, but similar. And there is the aforementioned Freedom Monument, which pays tribute, I believe, to the Latvian patriots who held off the Russians in 1918. So it actually comes as a bit of a surprise that the Soviets let it stay up when they took back Latvia for themselves. So here you can, unveiled 1935, yeah, and they let it stay. Which is not usually what the Soviets did. They were all about tearing stuff down. So it did not conform to their notion of whatever the Socialist Republic should look like. You can see on the monument, got some soldiers, and then at the base of it, you can see the Estonian flag is here as well. It looks like the Hungarian flag, so the people who helped fight against the Russians when they invaded. So over here is the Museum of the Occupation of Latvia. And I found out that my mistake is that I've been told it was along a river, and the person who told me that meant this canal in the park. So it is along that, it is not along the main river. Hence the confusion. And it looks closed, which would really be a bummer, but I guess we'll go find out. So after all that, it is closed as of a couple days ago. It's a huge bummer. I was really looking forward to that museum. It's been recommended to me by both the internet and by one of my mom's friends who happened to be Latvian, so too bad. So from a museum designed to highlight one Russian occupation of Latvia, here is a testament to a different occupation of Latvia by the Russians. It's Russian Orthodox Church. I walked all the way over here thinking this was a statue of Lenin, and it's not. It's a statue of the poet Rainus. How about that? Tell me it doesn't kind of look like Lenin though. At this moment, I'm at something of a crossroad. So, right now I'm as far from my hotel as I've been all day, and the rain is starting to pick up. Now, of course, I plan on going inside this beautiful church. But after that, I don't know what the best way is to get back, especially if it starts really pouring. And there's no internet anywhere. So, the question now is, do I just bail and go back? Do I go back to Old Town and do House of Blackheads today? Or will that screw me up? Because I'll be so, I don't know, I'll have seen the monument in such a haphazard way that it'll be hard to remember what I've seen and what I haven't. And hard to develop a plan of attack for tomorrow. The church is open. I guess we'll have to see how anal they are about no cameras. But as you recall, sometimes the Russian Orthodox churches are not the biggest fans of cameras inside the place of worship, so somewhat predictably no cameras allowed. So I'd say it's still worth checking out if you have time. I think if you only had one day here or a short layover, you probably don't need to come all this way. It's not as impressive as the one in Tallinn, but if you have 2 days like I do, it's worth it to make the trek up here, especially since it's relatively close to the Freedom Monument, so you're only really adding a short walk. Nice misty rain. Yeah, I don't exactly know where I'm going to go now. So I might go back to the House of the Blackheads. Try to see the town hall, which is right across from it. There are a few more churches that I've not yet seen, I believe. But in the meantime, I guess I'll just walk around in the misty rain, trying to get too wet. Hi. Yeah, sort of mystery right now. Up ahead is the Riga Opera, the National Opera. I'm sure I made my feelings on operas well known in the Vienna videos. I'm not the biggest fan. With that being said, they are always the most beautiful buildings in every city. It's sort of frustrating because on one level I want to appreciate them for what they are, which is really nice architecture, all that sort of stuff. But you know, on the flip side, I know that probably, you know, the most vestigial art form is still practiced inside for people who want to be pretentious and exclusive in their interests. But whatever, just one man's opinion. And a couple beers later, the rain has stopped and we're back to exploring. Now we're in Livu Square. It's got a bunch of shops. Actually an American themed bar over there, which I did not go in on principle. And this fun little castle guy up here. But what we're really in search of now is the Powder Tower, which has a war museum in it. And is apparently also just a fun little tower to look at, so off we go. Here we are at the Powder Tower. Now, it used to be covered in ivy, but I guess they've taken that off. I don't know if that's an improvement or not. The pictures I saw with the ivy look pretty nice. I'm sure it's bad for the structure though. So that was the War Museum in the Powder Tower. But I gotta say, it's almost impossible to find a free museum in Europe. In the States, obviously, that's the norm. I mean, if you go to DC, almost every museum is free. But that one was really fantastic. So I actually asked one of the museum directors why the museum was free, since that's so uncommon in Europe. And what he told me was that there are a lot of misconceptions about Latvia's role during World War II. And the Latvian government wanted to dispel some of those rumors, which they attribute to Russian propaganda. Now, that is sort of the thing to do, even if it's not necessarily Russian propaganda. So, I don't know, make your own decisions about what you want to believe. But the museum itself was really good, fantastic. Anyone watching this is looking to invest in some waterfront properties. Water's right there. In Riga, looks like this Anglican church is getting the boot. I see people carrying wood out of it, never a good sign for a church. And then this building also looks a little run down. So you can have a beautiful view of the river. And you're right in historic Old Town. I mean, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I don't know how you pass this up. I mean, it's got great bones. Isn't that what they say? It's got great bones. A little run down now for sure, but hey, you fresh coat of paint on that? Whoa. You're in business. While looking for the Three Brothers, I chanced on just a completely different church than I've seen so far. So, the beauties of Riga Old Town. Have I been to this church? Well, I can't read what that says, but it was founded in 1225. That part I can read. So these are the Three Brothers houses, which are some of the oldest residential buildings in Riga. They're all supposed to have their own little quirks, like this one has some writing above the door. That one's slanted. Well, devastatingly, the place I intended to get my delicious Latvian meal is not allowing me in because I do not have a COVID QR code, which is a failing of the US government that I think needs to be addressed. Americans need a scannable COVID certificate, or else I won't be able to get Latvian food. So, unfortunately, it's just going to be the long walk back to the hotel to check out the hotel restaurant, which I've actually heard is quite good, though I believe it's Italian food, which is not what I wanted. So, a little disappointed, but it's what it is, I guess. Just when I was about to give up on finding a true Latvian restaurant, I found one. Province. It was pretty good. Beer was solid. Dumplings, a little wet for my taste, but I get that's a style. I like more of a pierogi than like a sopping wet dumpling. But, you know, I can't complain. They let me in, they let me eat. So now, I'm about back to the hotel. It's only been a 25-minute walk, but it feels a lot longer because it's raining again, it's cold. I'm just kind of ready to lay down, take a nice hot shower. But still some fun to go tomorrow. House of the Blackheads inside. Gonna go to the town hall, and then I'm gonna figure out what else I missed. I think I got most of the sites done, but I have until like 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock tomorrow to see everything I missed today. I also have to go to the airport first thing in the morning, so I'll be able to record a little video of what that looks like, show off the storage options for people like myself who have a late flight but need to check out of their hotel. So yeah, that's it. Day one Riga. Quite a lot of fun.